Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lowdown podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin. As you guys can hear, I sound like crap. I'm going to try to get through the show solo as Raj is at the South Bay Lakers game. Probably having a hell of a lot more fun than he would be here talking with me, as I would probably have tried to distract myself with how annoyed I am about the Lakers by bugging him about Drake and by laughing at him about Drake. A quick reminder today on the show, obviously, we're going to be talking about that Lakers loss. That is now 3 in a row after winning 6 in a row. And I guess I could have seen the future when I said that the Lakers were 10-7 back when they were 10-6. They are now 10-7 and have the same exact record that they had this time last year. So actually a lot to talk about after this game, and a lot, I think, to kind of be resigned to because of this game. So buckle in, sit tight, grab a glass of vino. We're almost to the holiday weekend. Let's try to get there together. I'll see how long my voice holds out. And yeah, let's go. A quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your podcast. If you guys are listening in the morning to this in the audio form, if you guys are watching live right now, please do hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. And if you guys are watching on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge. I'm going to just kind of quickly recap the game here. The Lakers were competitive for all of the first half. They at one point they carried a decent sized lead, came back from Phoenix carrying their own lead. Game looked good and competitive for most of it, and then the second half happened. So Phoenix, it was 31-25 after the first. And then the Lakers came back, and they outscored Phoenix 35-31 in the second. So it was a good close game there in the first half. Then the Suns just absolutely blitzed the Lakers in the third quarter. 3 straight quarters where the Suns scored 36 points. It's just like this defense is terrible. We'll talk about that here in a bit. And then, by the time we got to the fourth quarter, the game was basically over. AD in this one, I thought way too many floaters. Didn't play with very much force in this one, which is tough to say about a guy who went for 25, 15, and 5 with 4 blocks and a steal. So the counting numbers are there for AD, but I just thought missed a lot of bunnies, missed a lot of floaters. Some plays where he should be finishing hard at the rim. I thought he took kind of the easy way out. 10 of 19 from the field isn't great for him. LeBron, kind of a baffling game for him. TNT kept making this big deal out of him tying Kyle Korver for 7th all time for 3-point shooting, which is crazy to consider for a guy who came into the league unable to hit a shot or unable to knock down threes consistently. But still, it was kind of weird, the focus on that aspect of the game. He finished with 18 points on 7 of 16 from the field, 2 of 7 from 3-point range. Did have the 10 assists, did have 8 rebounds, did have, however, 5 turnovers. Not a great game by his standards. Was a game worst, -30, and I would probably say that tracks. Rui started again for the second straight game after coming back from injury. And for the second straight game that I've watched him play, there are a lot of moments where I just completely forget that he's out there. He only played 23 minutes in this one, which JJ is clearly not thrilled with how Rui is approaching the game. Rui, after all of that focus, going back to training camp and going back to the beginning of the season, Rui is back to kind of those bad habits of his scoring. Basically, um, he's only going to do the right things or play the right way if he is scoring. In this one, he didn't, and he only grabbed one rebound in it. And on multiple occasions defensively, just didn't seem to give a single fuck. He was crazy to watch him out there. So only 23 minutes for Rui kind of seemed about right. I do kind of wonder if JJ is going to go away from Rui. At the worst, Dalton is probably going to be about as bad as Rui defensively when Rui is that kind of disinterested. And Dalton is a better shooter. So like maybe JJ goes in that direction here next, but that still leaves you with the foot speed issues that the Lakers have had all season. Again, we'll talk about that here in a bit. D'Angelo Russell played 29 minutes in this one. I thought he competed well for most of the game, but then it kind of devolved into, whatever. I'm going to start messing around. And then he started messing around. And overall, that second half for the Lakers, that third quarter, especially for the Lakers, really kind of reminded me of games from last year. And this is something that I have been worried about with the Lakers, basically developing the habit of quitting on coaches, and seeing guys quit on coaches. A few years ago, it was Russell Westbrook and that core quitting on Frank Vogel. And then it became last year's group quitting on Darvin Ham. And then now this one, like I was texting people who were there watching live, and I was texting with some of the people who I talked to around the league, and I was like, this game looks really familiar. And I don't mean in relation to last night's or a couple nights ago when the Lakers got blitzed by Denver. I mean, this game and this level of energy really looks familiar. And when you have a team and when you have an organization that feels like it's okay to just start quitting on coaches or start quitting, period, those habits become really difficult to weed out. And, JJ came into this one saying how they would not play that way, or we would not see the Lakers play that way ever again. And it took 2 quarters of basketball for us to start seeing a lot of the same shit, and JJ is now saying, well, this wasn't the same as Denver. Sorry, bud. I was watching. We all were watching. That was the same game. So, it's just, I think the further we go into the season, the more real it's going to become that Rob Pelinka and look, even if it isn't the matter of like, hey, we want to win a championship, but we want to effing compete, right? And I think like I just talked a second ago about like the various cores quitting on coaches. We could also talk about like the culture set from on high, where people aren't held to account, and a front office that is like perfectly fine not competing in some years. Even if you aren't like looking to win a championship with every single move that you make, building a championship roster is a very kind of gradual thing. And when you have a core or a pair of superstars, frankly, that have developed a habit of quitting on coaches, and you have a front office that sits out transaction windows, you arrive at a team that you're looking at like tonight in their previous game against Denver the other night, where if they just decide at any given time, we'll go and get them next time. Well, this is what that looks like. This is what that product can look like. And this is how you arrive at like apathy from fans. It's like, all right, fine. If you don't give a fuck, why should I? I'm here recording at 11:52 my time. My kids are going to be up in like 6 hours. Why should I care about this nonsense? I do because I'm paid to. But why should like anybody else? Why should fans care about this product? I don't know. I don't have an answer. I legitimately don't have an answer. Let's talk about the actual basketball though, and one thing that I'm really concerned about here moving forward with the Lakers is them developing the reputation around the league as being soft. If you hit them in the chest, and teams have, if you hit the Lakers in the chest, they are going to fold. And in the third quarter against Denver, Denver punched. And the Lakers like, ow, whoa, ow. And they just like, all right, fine, fuck it, shit. Take the take the game. And then Phoenix, same thing, knocked him in the chest. Nurkic was out there with a club at sometimes. Lakers like, ow, what the ow, stop, shit. Here's the fucking game. And if that's the reputation that you're willing to accept, or if that's the reputation the teams are willing to, or the teams are going to develop with you, well, guess what, man? Like, it's only going to get worse. If teams think that the way that they can beat you is to beat you, your life in the NBA is going to really and sincerely suck. And I think that's where the Lakers are heading, where, you look at let's go up and down the roster. We did this the other day, but I will do it again. Look at their guards. The only guy with any kind of like give a bleep is a 6'4", 6'5" Austin Reeves, who weighs about 210 soaking wet, and a 6'1" Gabe Vincent. There are no dogs on the perimeter. Max Christie isn't competing anymore. Dalton Connect, man, Dalton on defense is one of the worst things I've ever seen. And then you have like D'Angelo Russell, who might already be wearing a Brooklyn Nets jersey at this point. I don't know. And then you look at like their wings, right? You have Jared Vanderbilt, who we're not positive can walk. And you have Rui Hachimura, who again, like if he isn't getting his like necessary 2 or 3 shots per quarter, he just mopes in the corner on both sides of the court. He's the world's softest 6'8", 240, 50-pound guy. One fucking rebound, Rui. Get the hell out of here. And then you have like LeBron, who's going on 40 next month. And you have Anthony Davis, who in some moments can look like the toughest SOB that you've ever seen. And then in other moments, completely wilts from all contact, any and all contact. Tonight was an example. I thought he wilted from a lot of contact once Nurkic kind of had some confidence in this game. You have Christian Coloco, who's like 6'10", 195 pounds. Jackson Hayes got hurt tonight, by the way, on a non-contact play. I'm not sure how long it's going to be till we see him again. So I guess we go back to waiting for Christian Wood to recover on company time. It's just a mess of a roster. It's a mess of an organization. It's a culturally broken organization by a lot of ineptitude and zero accountability for that ineptitude. And I'm watching JJ Redick there on the sideline, and he's pacing up and down, and he looks like he wants to just rip off his quarter zip and get out there on the court, because he feels like he would probably compete better than a lot of the guys that they currently have. He can. He's old. It's just, it's maddening to watch a roster that just simply does not care. You're in game 17. How are we already having this conversation? The defense, JJ Redick said after the game that the defense needs to improve and that they're going to be looking at different strategies to improve. But again, like you can employ all the greatest strategies that I've ever seen. This team is the team. It's like, all right. So right now, the two kind of versions of the starting group that you're talking about is either one with Austin Reeves and Cam Reddish, and Cam is out there to help Austin on the perimeter. or you're gonna have Austin and Dalton, and then maybe Cam out there on the perimeter to help with somehow both Austin and Dalton. Like there's still a foot speed deficiency there. All right, you're gonna sub in Gabe, who has a little bit more foot speed, but he is like 6'1". So you're not going to get much of a defensive presence out there for that. You have to play Rui at some point, and until he gives a bleep about defense on nights where he doesn't get the 5 or 6 shots that he wants, or the 10 shots that he wants, then your defense is going to be terrible when he's out there. Again, we're not sure when we'll see Jared Vanderbilt again. Jackson Hayes was an okay anchor defensively, and Koloko was an okay anchor defensively, given the expectations for both of those guys, but neither of those guys are impact defenders. The only impact defender that the Lakers have available to themselves right now is Anthony Davis. And I know that y'all didn't like Taurean Prince, and I myself had my complaints about Taurean Prince and how he was handled or how he was used last year. But the Lakers could frankly use Taurean Prince because he at least competed defensively. It's just crazy. It's insane how you arrived. The Lakers won a championship only 4 or 5 years ago. And they won that championship through give a bleep. They were a resilient group of SOBs that they could be down 12 with 5 minutes to go in the fourth, and I wouldn't care. I wouldn't stop watching. But I find myself, it's like they get down 12 points in the third quarter, and I start looking at my phone because I know where this thing is heading. They won that championship off of that culture, that identity. They had KCP chasing people around on the perimeter. They had Alex Caruso defending his ass off on the perimeter. You had Kuzma still giving a bleep on the perimeter and still competing on that end, even if there were questions about who he was as a defender. You had Dwight Howard beating the shit out of anybody who walked in. When was the last time the Lakers got a flagrant foul? Do we have to go back to last year? For when the last time was that a Laker walked in there? The closest that we got was tonight with AD, and he caressed Nurkic's temple with his elbow. I've never seen somebody caress somebody with an elbow. When was the last time anybody knocked anybody to the ground defensively as a Laker? It hasn't happened in 3 years. And you go from that identity, that collective identity, to where they arrive now, where it's just a bunch of guys who, unless they are absolute flamethrowers out there, the Lakers don't have a chance because they can't get a goddamn stop. It doesn't matter who they're playing. It's the same goddamn game, night in, night out. Are we making our threes? No. Well, all right. We'll see how this goes. How is Rob Pelinka? How is Jeannie Buss? How is Kurt or Linda Rambis? How are none of them not sick of this? I'm sick of recording the same goddamn podcast episode for years now. It's the same show, night in, night out. And sometimes I sound like this, sometimes I sound like a human being. That's my freaking vocal cords are fighting harder right now than the Lakers have in a week. God, man. I'm going to answer some of these super comments, and then we're going to get you guys out of here. And Raj, I believe we'll be back after tomorrow night's game. And hopefully I'll sound a little bit better than I do right now then. All right. First super comment here comes from Justin Tyndall, who writes, we say Rob, trade. AD, Braun, Austin, and Dalton are the only players on this roster who are playing at their or exceed their salary. I don't know that Braun, in just purely basketball terms, is playing at his salary. Austin is, Dalton is, Rui isn't. Cam, I would say slightly below. Max isn't. Vanderbilt obviously isn't. Hayes isn't. Wood isn't. Yeah, you know, but like that gets back to like the culture aspect of all of this, right? Excuse me. You watch like the Heat play or the Knicks play or the Warriors play or you name them. And there's like a baseline expectation for give a bleep. There's a baseline expectation for compete out there. And there is so much acceptance of in this Lakers organization that I don't know that like merely addressing it at this trade deadline is going to get it out. Like we're talking about cultural rot that has set in because everybody knows it does not matter what Rob Pelinka does or doesn't do. He will never be held accountable until like he just randomly decides to retire, I guess, one day. And when that's at the top of your organization and you could swap out pieces in the rungs below on that ladder. And at the end of the day, that rot is going to seep in to those rungs eventually. And that ladder is eventually going to collapse. And I keep on watching the same, the same core, same group of guys, or maybe a couple different guys here and there. And it just winds up turning into the same basketball. And it's like, this isn't a personnel problem. This isn't a coaching problem. This is a cultural problem. The Lakers have a cultural problem on their hands. The next question here comes from Jason, JK Productions Kelly. Another reminder, the WB trade, Westbrook trade ruined the Lakers. It did. But watching this organization, like since then, it doesn't give me great hope that some other situation would have risen that presented the same problems. Justin writes again, we might actually have less impactful than impactful. Max, JHS, Lewis, Reddish, Gabe Wood, Vando, and D'Lo has shot over 40% from the field in 5 games. I'm guessing that's combined. But yeah, I'm like this is just, it's not a good roster. I think we're really starting to see some of that slippage from LeBron. We'll see flashes every now and then, but he's starting to look like a 40-year-old basketball player. And AD offensively isn't a good enough facilitator to be the hub of the offense in the way that the Lakers wanted it to be. And then, frankly, defensively, I think we have hit that inflection point where like there are so many bad defenders on this roster that, even AD can't mask all of those issues. And again, like it's just like we are on, it's November 27th. So they can't trade for like Jonas Valanciunas until December 15th, but they can't trade for Dorian Finney-Smith. They can trade for Cam Johnson. They can trade for Jeremy Grant or any of these guys. And maybe it is shuffling chairs on the deck of the Titanic. I don't know, maybe. But it's like I don't want to continue to watch a group that is just as apathetic as I've seen these guys over the last, few games here. You had, by the way, Orlando had no business being in that game, and the Lakers missed a bunch of free throws. They were in this one tonight. Their free throws, they were 18 of 25 from the free throw line. Again, 72% from the free throw line isn't going to get it done. It's just when I see a team that I know is capable of shooting and they miss as many free throws as the Lakers do, it tells me that there's a focus issue there. That like there's a give up leap issue when they step to the line. And some of this does kind of come and go. Maybe the Lakers progress to the mean and they go on a hot streak and make enough free throws to make up for the last few games. But when I see the Lakers miss as many free throws as they do, or miss as many many bunnies and miss like Rui had a wide open layup tonight that he just missed. Like that's a focus thing. That's an energy thing. And then you look at some of the plays that they are, or I guess more often than not making on the defensive end, and that's a focus thing. That's an energy thing. And the hope was that with like JJ showing up, that he like it would be a different voice to get those guys on task and keep them on task. So at the very least, you would have a higher baseline of focus and energy than they had last year, but they don't. We're seeing those same habits creep right back up. And I'm again, I keep on saying, well, maybe Darvin wasn't the problem. He wasn't the only problem. You don't have Anthony Davis and LeBron James have the seasons that they had last year and merely lose in the first round and have your head coach be the only problem. That's not how basketball works. If you have Anthony Davis and LeBron James both playing all NBA level basketball and you lose in the first round in a gentleman's sweep to the Denver Nuggets, that's a coaching problem. That's a personnel problem. That's a give-up lead problem. That's a front office. It's a culture problem. And the Lakers continue to have that front office and culture problem because guess what? The culture of this Lakers organization is, well, I'm not going to fire Rob because he's my good buddy. All right. Let's see. We have we have a lot more. Okay. Justin Tyndall writes again, we can only win if we score 120 points. Dalton needs to start. All right. So Reddish is okay defensively, but you can't play 5-on-4 offensively. I do kind of wonder if the Lakers just basically try to lean into we are going to be flamethrowers offensively, and go about it that way. Because the guys that you're asking to play defense aren't exactly like Cam Reddish only looks like a good defender because he's surrounded by the guys that the Lakers have defensively. Gabe Vincent only looks like a good defender defensively because Austin and D'Lo are your other the defensive presences out there. So maybe the Lakers just lean into, you know what, screw it. It's kind of like a Michael Bay movie where it's like, yeah, the story's probably going to suck. Dialogue is probably going to be really dumb, but fireworks, and like maybe that's what the Lakers basically go with here is like, yeah, we can't really defend and rebounding is kind of an issue and whatever, but fireworks. Maybe that's what this team looks like here moving forward. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I could have just done like a 4-second podcast and it would have just been this. This is why I look like this, everybody. This is why I'm losing my mind. All right, let's go with the next question here. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's perfect timing. I really hadn't read that comment yet, Justin, but Joker Face might have to come out for Boston Rob. Yeah, here I am. Same guy, minus the makeup. JJ Lobos writes, "Hey Anthony, great show. LeBron with a team high or team low minus 30. Do you think any marginal trade will change this putrid basketball when our stars want to walk the season, turn it and want to walk the season and then turn it on at the end?" Yeah, again, that's a cultural thing. And so essentially one of the things that I was really hoping for this year was a head coach getting it in the Lakers' minds that like you cannot base your energy level on that 40-year-old geriatric over there. Like that's if LeBron is always the guy who kind of dictates through his own energy what the Lakers' energy is going to be, then you're going to lose a lot of basketball games because you aren't going to play with enough energy. LeBron needs to pace himself over the course of 82 games if he wants to play in all 82 games. And if he's going to pace himself and the rest of the team is going to decide whether or not they're going to play hard by whether or not he is pacing himself that night, then like what's that going to look like on all of those nights? So the hope that I had coming into this year was like, all right, yes, LeBron is going to have to pace himself for stretches of this season and stretches of these games and all that stuff. When he does, you actually have to lift your energy level and play that much harder and carry the rest of the team through those minutes or those games or whatever, so that when he actually turns it on, he has a chance at winning the game. And what we're seeing right now is like he'll go into like kind of cruise mode, he'll go into cruise control, and the Lakers just suck because everybody else's energy level gets to that point too. I thought he played a part in that energy level, firing from three the way that he did tonight. There's a lot of like pull up threes early in the shot clock with the ball not moving. That was, I think, a him problem. But like this idea that, all right, we are only going to try just as hard as LeBron James does. We are now on year 6 of that now. And it's not a fun product to watch. All right, last one here comes from Justin Tyndall, right? Genie is a Jerry Jones of the NBA, uses the history of the franchise to stay relevant and makes a ton of money. Winning is secondary. I think I don't know if I would phrase it as like winning is secretary, but I will say though that like she wants to win and only on her terms. Because if winning was the only thing, if winning was the top priority, Rob would at the very least have an assistant GM, or the Lakers would have hired somebody to preside above Rob and then allow Rob to be the general manager again, as it was originally intended when he was working with Magic Johnson. But, seeing as she doesn't want to ruffle feathers in that way, and, apparently one of the most important things to continue to exist in that situation is to just not piss off Jeannie, not piss off Linda. Like that's how you arrive at a place here where there's just zero accountability. And what's really going to be interesting to see here, depending on how the season goes, Rob should be up for an extension at some point this year, or else he becomes a lame duck candidate next year. And, if the Lakers are mediocre for most of this year and they don't appear to be going anywhere, I don't know how you extend this guy while this roster just kind of toils in that mediocrity, despite having LeBron James, despite having Anthony Davis. But hey, you know what? We're in like year 3 of that same mediocrity while they've had those guys. So buckle up, I guess. We got one more. It is funny. Stephen A, the Lakers have an internal voice problem. I have an external voice problem. I need to stop talking. But we do have this one here from Eric Rubin. It's a roster problem, not an effort-focused coaching problem. Cam and Rui don't start on top-tier teams. You need Levine and higher end talent and more after that. DFS plus Levine or Grant and DFS and Lonzo need lots of moves. I agree that they need to overhaul this roster at this point. It's just a matter of, do they have enough assets to do that? Do they have enough creativity to do so in the margins? And then do they have the give a bleep from the front office's standpoint? Because at this point, it does seem kind of, I wrote about this for Clutch Point, right? Clutch Points yesterday that it really kind of sounds like, it seems like the Lakers are content with just kind of riding out the end of the LeBron James era and waiting for it to end and then using, that draft capital for the rebuild. I don't know. I am watching patiently. All right, that is going to do it here for my voice and for this episode of the Lakers Lowdown podcast. Raj will be back for tomorrow after the Lakers play in their final game before the Thanksgiving break. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying, have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. Tell your friends about the show. Tell your enemies that you hate it. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and all of that good stuff. And I will talk to you guys, hopefully with a better voice tomorrow.